Hey guys, this is John from Observemedia. With Justice League out of the way, there's a standalone Batman movie coming up. It's going to be directed by Matt Reeves. There aren't many details out about it now, so I wanted to kind of go through and sort of talk about some storylines from the comics that I think might work for that movie and might fit in that kind of a universe. The first story arc is Under the Hood, or Under the Red Hood, as you might know it. It's the story of Jason Todd, the second Robin who was killed by the Joker, basically coming back from the dead as like an anti-hero known as the Red Hood. He basically goes around killing villains and stuff and kind of challenges Batman on why he fights the way he does and doesn't kill villains. There's an interesting mystery aspect to that story that you could kind of work into the movie, because you would have the comic book fans who sort of already know that it's Jason Todd, that it really wouldn't be much of a mystery for, but you also have the casual fans who would be interested in that kind of a mystery. So it would sort of be a balancing act between the two, but probably wouldn't be something to focus on directly. I like the aspect that in the comic there was a lot of emphasis from the Red Hood on why Batman doesn't kill and why he didn't kill the Joker when Joker killed him. In this, it would be interesting because Batman has been killing people. You can see in Batman v Superman that he does that. So it could be an interesting kind of story there, as far as we've been seeing Batman kind of go through this redemption thing between Batman v Superman and Justice League, where he's sort of becoming the hero again that he once was. We could kind of play off of that or go into a new story of kind of have something like Batman ends up killing someone who was innocent and sort of have him going into that redemption to try and become the hero he was, but then you have Jason Todd as sort of that temptation to go back to the other side. I think there's a lot of story there you could really have fun with. You could also bring in Jared Leto's Joker and Margot Robbie's Harley Quinn and really go into the backstory of what happened with Robin and stuff and even tell that story of what happened to the Joker. David Ayer kind of mentioned it in interviews and stuff that the reason he has his teeth messed up and stuff is because of Batman knocking him out when Joker killed Robin. So it could be interesting to do a flashback to that and kind of see what happened. They've already sort of set it up in Batman v Superman as far as having the outfit in the Batcave. So I think it's really something that could be an interesting story to kind of continue that story of Batman's redemption into becoming a hero and what he's kind of facing. Another story I think could be interesting would be Batman and Son, the story of Bruce Wayne's son, Damian Wayne, coming into his life. Basically, Damian is the son of Bruce Wayne and Talia al Ghul, daughter of Ra's al Ghul. And he was raised by the League of Assassins to be an assassin, and he kind of is brought into Batman's life and kind of thrown on him to raise him. There's a lot of stories that have been done so far in movies because we've had 8 live-action Batman movies and 2 live-action serials. So there's a lot of stories that have already been told, and I think this is a story that we haven't seen in that format yet. We've seen it in the animated movies, but Damian hasn't been really introduced into a lot of mediums other than the comics, which he's really big in right now. And I think he's a really interesting character, and it's a really interesting dynamic to see kind of Batman trying to raise his son, especially a son that's been raised to be an assassin, and kind of teach him his ways and Damian's stubbornness to not live by that. It's a really interesting story I think could work well in a movie and be something we really haven't seen before. You could also use someone like Deathstroke as the villain who's already been established, or someone totally different, like Ra's al Ghul or someone else. Another story I think would be interesting has sort of been done already in The Dark Knight Rises, but it's No Man's Land, which isn't so much a story arc as it is an overall event that has many story arcs to it. But in The Dark Knight Rises, they made it sort of that Bane cuts off the city from everyone. In the comics, No Man's Land is a story where Gotham is hit by an earthquake that sort of just totals a lot of the city. And the government decides, based on what Gotham's been through so far and the amount of money it would cost to fix the damage, they decide it's cheaper and easier just to cut off the city, declare it a no man's land and not part of the United States than to put the money in to fix it. One of the things I like about the story in the comics is the people in Gotham and the emphasis on how they've kind of regressed after the earthquake to more of like a gang mentality, not really following laws and morals anymore and sort of trading goods, doing kind of either working for criminals or sort of abiding by their rules and living under them. It definitely shows why Batman kind of has to be the hero of this movie, because he has to kind of adapt to the situation. I love the one story in the comics where Superman kind of comes to help, and Batman tells him he really can't, and he gives him 24 hours to try and help as many people as he can. And basically, after the whole thing is over, Superman comes back and it's like, you're right, I can't help these people because they don't want to be helped. This is their lifestyle now. So the story really has to do with Batman sort of adapting to that and trying to bring these people back to a civilized society before he can even start to rebuild the city. It's definitely a story that emphasizes why Batman is the hero he is and why he would be the one to handle situations like this well. There's also a good opportunity to use different villains from Batman's rogues gallery in it. There's a story in the comics where Jeremiah Arkham kind of decides that he can't keep holding the villains in Arkham Asylum. They're either going to kill him or end up starving to death, so he basically has to let them out into the city. So the villains each kind of take a different fraction of the city and lead their own gangs. I think that would be a cool way to use a lot of different villains without really diminishing them at all, because they're not really a main thread of the story, they're just sort of there as situations around him. Another story I think would be interesting to see would be Court of Owls, which is a relatively new story, only a few years old. Basically, it's about this society of people in Gotham who are sort of running the government, running the politics of the city from the shadows. And it's an interesting story because it revolves around Batman really realizing he doesn't know his city as well as he thinks he does. So this being 20 years into his career in this movie, it'd be interesting to see that kind of a dynamic where he's kind of realizing that there's something going on behind the scenes in the city that he doesn't know about. The last story arc I had in mind is the one that was also The Dark Knight Rises. It was Nightfall. Basically, I think this would work if you're trying to transition Ben Affleck out of the part, if he does really not want to keep playing it, as it's rumored right now. Nightfall is the story of Bane breaking Batman's back and Azrael taking over as Batman. Realistically, you could have really anyone take over as far as someone like Dick Grayson or someone, but it would basically be able to take Bruce Wayne out of the part of Batman but keep him around if you wanted to still have him there, and transition it to a different person so that Ben Affleck wouldn't keep playing the part anymore. I'm not sure they would do something like that because I think people would be a lot more interested to see Dick Grayson in a Nightwing movie rather than become Batman, but it would be an option for them if they would want to go that route. Another idea, not really directly from the comics as far as the story arc, would be to use Ra's al Ghul. Because, again, if you would want to transition the part from Ben Affleck to a different person but keep it being Bruce Wayne, I think it would be interesting to use the Lazarus Pit to do that. The Lazarus Pit in the comics is basically a pool with this liquid that basically rejuvenates you. It can bring people back from the dead, and it can make you kind of younger and stronger again. It's interesting to think of the concept that Batman in this universe is older, and he's now associating more with people like Superman and Flash and Cyborg who are younger and a lot stronger than him. You could definitely portray him as kind of getting fed up with being an older guy and being slower than he used to be and not as strong as he used to be. Whether he's interacted with Ra's and the Lazarus Pit before or this would be his first time doing it, it'd be interesting to see him try to sort of use that pit to rejuvenate himself. If he's something that he's been through before and knows about it, we've seen this Batman kind of make questionable decisions before in this series, and if it's something new to him that he doesn't quite understand totally yet, it could also be interesting. But I think it would be an interesting story in telling him kind of going into the Lazarus Pit and then fighting this corruption that's now inside him and this kind of insanity that it brings out in him, and sort of fighting to stay the man that he is and keep the morals that he has. It would be a good way, as long as you had an actor that looks similar to Ben Affleck as sort of younger, you could definitely have him go in as Ben Affleck, use the other actor after that, and sort of have him be that the same age but younger seeming Batman. That would be why he looks a little bit younger and different. And you could really use the story to kind of tell why you're changing the actor rather than just changing it. Another concept not directly from a comic is just the use of Arkham Asylum in general. Sort of like a Arkham Asylum, A Serious House on a Serious Earth, or like the Arkham Asylum game. A movie that would have him going into the facility to do something. We haven't really seen a lot of Arkham Asylum in the movies. Batman Begins had a good amount in there, but I think that it's definitely something you could really utilize in an overall concept. You could also bring a mystery element into it as far as why he's going in, who it is that decided to take over, do whatever they're doing. Basically, have someone release all of the inmates and have all this chaos, and you don't really know who it is. You just know that they called Batman into the facility to try and stop them. Like No Man's Land, it would be an interesting way to kind of utilize the villains in Batman's universe and sort of have them not seem like they're less of a threat, but sort of have them just in this environment where they really can't be at their full potential, but would still be interesting to see. So those are some ideas I had for storylines they could use or things they could do in the movies. Let me know what you think. Do you have any other story arcs from the comics that you think they could use? There's a bunch you could choose from, and a bunch that really would fit in this universe. Let me know down in the comments what you think of the ideas I proposed, and if you have any other ideas or any ways to change the ideas I came up with. I look forward to this video dating itself pretty quickly as they start revealing stuff about the movie, and we'll actually know what's going on, and either I'll be totally right and it'll be really cool, or I'll be totally wrong and look stupid. Either way, it's fun to think of what's going to happen in the future of these movies. Give us a like and subscribe below. Check us out on Twitter at ObserveMediaZ, and check us out on Facebook at Observemedia. And check out some of our other discussions and rundowns and videos we have in these lists here that should be on the screen right there. I'm John from Observemedia, and I'll talk at you again later.